Yeah, that's when it is. I'm not an expert. Yeah. It's all up on, that's the one I don't.
I mean, I like what Red Sox.
Yeah, that, you know, it's kind of good.
Yeah, so.
You're having fun.
Right.
What did you learn out there?
You get there, anything you need from me, let me know. Me too. I have a friend that's there.
Yeah, additional money will be.
Okay.
Swan song. That's right.
Maybe way for us to make some. Oh.
Morning, everyone. We're calling the meeting to order. This is the second quarterly meeting of the Board of at June 5th, and we will have the roll call. Secretary Dennison.
Regent Bale,
Present.
Regent Ronnie,
Present.
Regent Hammonds,
Here.
Regent Helm,
Here.
Regent Milliken,
Here.
Regent Nichols,
Here.
Regent Spiller,
Here.
Vice Chair Thomas,
Present.
Chair West,
Present.
Regent Robinson.
Here.
Have, all regents present.
Great to see everybody today. And our first item of business is to approve, we have 3 sets of minutes to approve. The first quarterly meeting, the special call meeting in April, and then the special call meeting in May. Has everybody had an opportunity to look over the minutes, and does anyone have any corrections or changes? Okay, do I have the minutes?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. And our first, next item of business is academic affairs.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
We have 7 action items. We'll try to get to them. And first action item is approval of WKU campus microgrid project.
Great, thank you. Just to remind you, this is WKU proposes to implement a microgrid out at the Innovation Campus on its roof that will supply energy, ensure continuity and critical operations and support for the community. Cost is $2 million, but it comes out of grants and no ER money will be used to do that.
Questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept.
So moved.
Motion, second. Second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Next item is approval of program suspension of Master of Science in kinesiology.
Yep, there's been a shift in the job market and the changing profession standards has prompted the faculty to ask for a suspension of this program. turns out that they will then go back out and take a look at it again and remodel it in a different format.
Questions? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
Yes.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes. Third item is approval of program suspension of Bachelor of Science, Geological Sciences. Provost Fisher.
Yeah, the faculty again made the decision to suspend the geological sciences. Ultimately, they will create a BS in geological sciences and merge it with a BS in environmental sustainability and geological studies to create environmental, earth, and sustainable sciences as one program.
Any questions? Not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion. Second. All in favor? Opposed? Passes. Fourth item is approval of program suspension Bachelor of Science Environmental.
Yeah, we're gonna get rid of all three so they can be merged. That's where we are. So again, the faculty asked to suspend, in this case, the BS in geological sciences, and then merge it with the other two that were previously mentioned to create a new program.
Any questions? Not, entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second. Second. All in favor, so you can say aye. Any opposed? Passes. Fifth item, approval of program suspension Bachelor of Arts to advertise.
The faculty, in this case, in media and communications, has asked to suspend the BA in advertising. They will take the BA in advertising and merge it with public relations to make a new integrated advertising and public relations program.
Questions? Motion?
Maybe.
Second. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes. Six items, approval of program suspension of Bachelor of Arts in Public Relations.
To do the rest of the merger, now the faculty would like to take, and media and communications would like to suspend the BA in public relations and then merge it with what we talked about previously.
Question?
It's a teach out, right? It'll be a teach.
Everything's a teach out. We don't run away from anybody. We will teach everybody out.
Question, comment? Motion? Second. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes.
What I would say about all of those at this point is that it's a move in the direction of how it's changing out there and what the expectations are of certain areas that have expanded over the last 10 years to make sure that our students are ready to be able to move from here to a career as they do these new majors that are merged majors.
Next item is approval of faculty emeritus.
Yep, we have two faculty emeritus today. I'll start with Dr. Amy Capisi. Dr. Capisi built a distinguished record of leadership, service, and teaching and scholarship while she was here. She joined the university in 2006. She earned tenure in 2012 and retired in 2024. She was a leader on campus. She had roles such as MSW, or the Master in Social Work Program Director, Online Master of Social Work Studies Coordinator, and she was also interim chair of that department. In addition to that, she published 2 books, 12 peer review articles, and delivered more than 70 peer-reviewed invited presentations. She's not here today, but she is well deserved to be an emeritus faculty at WKU.
You want to take them up together, or you want to do them individually, or?
Yes, I was going to do them one at a time.
Your motion?
Real quick, did she give you some comments?
She did not. Oh, I get to. Thank you. So Amy says, I'm deeply sorry I could not be present for the meeting with the Western Kentucky University Board of Regents as my faculty emeritus nomination was considered. My 18 and a half years in the Department of Social Work were an important part of my life, which allowed my passion for research, service, and teaching to weave together in support of WKU students, colleagues, and the community. This recognition touches me more than words can hold, and I carry it with profound appreciation. While I have shifted to working in frontline social work, supporting survivors of sexual assault, I will always remain at heart a lifelong learner who shares the knowledge, values, and skills with others. Thank you for your understanding of my absence and for honoring the work that has shaped so much of my life. Dr. Amy Capisi.
Comments? Entertain a motion to accept.
I move we afford this honor to Dr. Amy.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
The second person is Dr. Larry Owens, professor. Dr. Owens built a strong record of teaching, service, and scholarship during his time at WKU, joining the university in 2010. He earned tenure and promotion in 2016 and retired in 2024 as a full professor. He is with us today. I would ask him to say a few words.
Right. Thank you for the nomination for this. I feel quite being a first generation college student from a single parent home. This is more than I could have imagined. I was going to be a firefighter, but through a series of events, I went to college that opened and changed my world and opened the world to me. Like Dr. Capisi, I'm what I call a pracademic. I spent 25 years in practice as a child in working in child welfare, and then I transitioned to academia. So I was able to combine those two factors into working with the student. Another big area of mine is international. And while I was at WKU, I was able to represent the university at over 15 countries, doing research as well as study abroad. And so much so that my wife and I, she's a WKU alum, we have endowed the Go Global Scholarship here at WKU that provides funding for social work students for international experiences. So I'm truly honored. I noticed that WKU is everywhere. Whenever I wear my WKU hat on the golf course, inevitably someone has gone here or their kids. WKU truly is everywhere. And then most of my time here was spent at the regional campuses. And I just want to speak to the importance of regional campuses. I know online education is a great option, but regional campuses touches students who are place bound in a very different way. And I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to work with those students, and I appreciate the university's commitment to that. So thank you for considering me for this, and it really is an honor. So thank you.
Thank you. I don't have anything to say of that, except that he's well deserved of the honor.
Thank you, Doctor. Your motion?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes.
We have one information item today. As we saw today, there was a lot of suspensions and then reforming of structures. As we move forward, we talk constantly about modernizing curriculum, but also thinking about how colleges should be structured as we move into the next 10 to 20 years. And today we have Dr. Terrence Brown here today to talk about how PCAL has been working on a new restructuring model.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to present here today, and I'm excited to share with you an intentional step forward for PCAL, a restructuring initiative that we're calling PCAL Forward. This is about positioning our college for long-term strength, visibility, and sustainability in a rapidly changing higher education landscape. I'll walk you through 5 areas today. Why we're doing this now, what we're actually changing, the process we've followed, where we currently stand, and what the future structure of PCAL will look like. I'll close with the key takeaway, and since we have a lot of ground to cover, let's begin. Why now? This is the question that I'm asked most often. The honest answer is the time for deliberate, proactive change is before a crisis, not during one. Higher education enrollment is declining nationally. Students have more choices than ever. They're drawn to programs with clear identity and strong pathways. PCAL has incredible depth, distinguished faculty and staff, vibrant programs, alumni making real impact, but our current departmental structure doesn't always make that visible or easy for students to navigate. PCAL Forward is driven by 3 opportunities: stronger academic pathways, grouping disciplines that naturally complement one another so students can see connections and build coherent programs of study, enhanced student experience and visibility, making it easier for prospective and current students to find us, understand what we offer, and feel a sense of belonging within a defined academic community. Expanded curriculum, media, and community partnerships, creating administrative homes that can pursue external partnerships, grants, and community engagement with greater agility. We are not restructuring out of panic. We are restructuring from a position of purpose. Before I describe what we're changing, I want to spend a moment on how we got here because the process matters enormously. Since substantial change is often difficult with an array of opinions and emotions, we work to be as intentional as possible about how we are doing this work. Some of this intentionality is built on large form presentations, small group discussions, surveys, and research performed externally of the university. The restructuring has unfolded in five-phase process, 3 of which that we're going to discuss this morning. Phases 1 and 2 were about listening, faculty forums, data review, and developing school alignment proposals. We asked, what do our colleagues believe belongs together? What serves the students best? Phase 3 moved into identity and structure, naming the schools, defining administrative relationships, and ensuring every unit has a clear home. On May 8th of this year, faculty and staff submitted their formal recommendations. There was a significant milestone with difficult and intentional conversations that pushed us past our comfort zones. I'm thankful for all the unit leadership, faculty and staff and students who contributed to this work. Our implementation target is fall 2027, giving us time to do this in a systematic way. I want to be direct about something important. This restructuring does not eliminate programs, and it does not reduce personnel. It is a purpose to strengthen visibility, improve coordination, and build sustainability. The goal of this college is to be easier to lead and also to navigate, and more competitive for the students and faculty we want to attract. Here's what PCAL will look like in the beginning of fall 2027. We'll have 4 schools and 1 temporary continuing department. The School of Languages, Literatures, and Writing, which brings together English and modern languages, under a shared identity reflects their common focus on communication, culture, and expression. School of Social Sciences, using political science with the Society, Culture, Crime, and Justice Studies unit, creating a robust home for civic inquiry. The School of Creative Arts and Design, which is music, art and design, and theater and dance, together in one vibrant creative community. This school has extraordinary potential for interdisciplinary collaboration and community partnerships. And the School of Media and Communication, already established in 2022, this school continues to anchor our commitment to communication, film, visual journalism and photography, journalism, broadcasting, integrated public relations and advertising, and other emerging media. Department of History. During our discussions, history did not emerge as a natural or broadly supported merger partner at this time. Additional time is needed to build relationships, strengthen trust, and determine where future alignment may be possible. The bottom line of this slide is academic identity is preserved. What changes is how we coordinate, how we present ourselves externally, and how easy it is for our students to find and navigate their academic home. I'll leave this with you. PCAL Forward is deliberate change now, so we don't face forced change later. We are choosing structured adaptation over forced contraction. We are making this move while we have time, the community voice, and the institutional will to do it well. PCAL is where creativity, critical thinking, and communication come to life. It's where students build success. It's built upon belonging, readiness, and purpose. PCAL Forward ensures that continues on stronger footing for a new generation of students. I'd like to thank you for your time and your investment in this process.
Any comments or questions?
What, thank you, by the way. What, sorry, can we go back to that? I apologize.
Which one, Julie?
That last slide with the key takeaway. You talked a little bit about like the shrinking or like this, like the word that caught my attention when you started is like crisis. Can you talk more about like what that would look like? Cause like I know like, yes, the enrollment cliff, but like how is this restructuring going to like one-to-one or, you know, however, how is this going to help?
I'll give you an example. When I talk about crisis, you know the lay of the land in higher education. We are thankful to have administrators and leadership who give us opportunities to address some of the issues in a systematic way, opposing to doing a top-down, heavy-handed, you must do this in 2 months.
Mhm.
Say, for instance, there was a conference that I attended last November where the provost walked in and said, you have 4 months to restructure your whole college. You don't have to do that. We've started this process. It'll be a 3-year process when we finish. So that's what I mean about that forced part, where we have opportunity to have some conversations.
I think, I would love to say, I think when you look at it, I think it brings together groups that then can create what we saw today, new majors, right? Thinking about how individual majors are this, but together they really create new and innovative ways to move forward into the future. And I think that will excite students to be here and excite students to see what the future holds.
And that work has already started. If you want to come to my office, I invite you. On my window is about 17 new certificate programs, 3 new majors, and 8 community partnerships that are in the works right now as a result of these restructure conversations. So therefore, your future board meetings will be busy.
I didn't understand your comment about the history department. Would you state that, please?
Yeah. Right now, the history department would temporarily remain as a department until we find some conversations to find a suitable school home for them.
Thank you.
So I have a question. I won't cut you off.
Here you go.
There's a little bit of confusion, I think, and I've been asked questions about this, as you might imagine, for a while. And one of the questions that's come up most often is, hey, when this comes before the board, you got to vote against it. And I keep saying, we don't vote on this. By academic policy, it goes provost to the president based on recommendation. The president has the final say. But I figured out yesterday, I went and read the website that you have, the rationale, went through the FAQs. And in the FAQs or in step 3, it says very clearly in there that it will be presented for board approval by June 1st. And I think that's one of the things that's caused some confusion is in your own information to the college. It says that the board would be doing approval.
That has been adjusted in the print materials, but we were delayed on some technical issues
So,
on the website.
but I'm giving you that background to say one that probably explains why I might have gotten so. I have gotten a lot of information and questions on this, and so some things I feel like I need to ask. Okay, and coming from the faculty, coming from the campus community, you talk about you already have 17 or so programs that are collaboration things that are already going. I would be curious as to why these departments are not already collaborating. They're in the same college, they work together, they're closely aligned disciplines. Are there barriers and hurdles to them doing this now that this is going to rebuild?
No, I think the thing is that the question I think that you're trying to say to me is that couldn't they've already done this in their current structure? The answer is they would have already. the reason why we're seeing this curriculum innovation is because we are restructuring. To be frank, higher education tends to operate in silos. And through those siloed operations, we have very little reason to move outside our comfort zone to collaborate. The arts and medias and humanities and social sciences face unique problems, barriers. We are trying to position ourselves in a way to meet the external forces, but also find opportunities to thrive and not just merely survive.
So when you create these, I'm assuming we're looking at some financial savings as well. I mean, coming from the university perspective, we'd be looking for, this is going to help us recruit more students. This is going to lead to some administrative savings. Can you give some, do you have, because I'm looking through, I'm not seeing any numbers on that. And the provost is always telling me, bring me numbers. What are you expecting in terms of student growth, enrollment growth, retention, or administrative savings on the back end? Because there's a cost to a bureaucratic change like this. And the cost goes down to the faculty side quite often, because they have to come up with new promotional senior standards. We reviewed those in the last year. Those are new documents that will have to be created by these faculty for these departments. That will take a tremendous amount of time to merge in those from different departments, where the faculty could be spending their time doing other. They could be recruiting students, they could be advising students, they could be creating creative or research type activities. So there's a trade-off here. What are you expecting that trade-off to pay off?
I want to talk a little bit about enrollment. Our college is no stranger to working on enrollment management. You probably see me on social media all the time. We have done a great deal of enrollment management efforts to try to grow enrollment in a meaningful way. Our current structure makes that very difficult. So no matter how much work we do, it's not seeing the return of the work we're putting in. It's because we believe of our structure. So that's going to allow us to be able to do that. When you talk about TNP and promotion and that work, that is in the next phase. I don't deny that that does take time, but those are things that we should always do anyway. We should always look and review and revise tenure and promotion standards collectively. And we are going to have the opportunity for some units who may not have a chance to do that work to be able to do that in a meaningful way now with time.
So one thing I would just encourage, I went through and read through your process. I saw there's been surveys. I've gotten a lot of feedback on all that as well.
What kind of feedback have you gotten? Because I would love to know.
The main thing, just transparency, and the surveys results not being shared, whether it's a student survey or faculty survey or others, and I'm not a party to that. I don't.
And those go out to all faculty. Survey commitment have went up to all faculty and staff via email.
So actually, y'all know I teach a lot of different courses. What I'm doing right now is strategic leadership, and this week is change management. And I understand people are resistant to change, but the only way to get them through it is through transparency and inclusion, making sure people understand. And based on what I've heard in the last 6 months, but especially in the last week, I would say there's a lot of work to be done in the college on transparency or education part of this. Make sure that everybody's part of that. That just be my feedback on what I'm hearing. It's not any judgment or anything else, but just an honest assessment based on the amount that I'm hearing it. My watch is buzzing right now as I think I'm getting text messages, even as I speak.
I think that the transparency portion is always something we have to be mindful for in administration. But our hope was, as you have done, to look at the website, to be able to find out the process and all the steps, and you were able to educate yourself from the website.
Somewhat.
Okay.
7 FAQs is not a lot, especially if there's some broad statements there. We expect gains, we expect things to be better, but there's no metrics and
Well, and a part of that is because, as I mentioned earlier, when people do this change, it's forced. We are in a different landscape. So a lot of our information that we would gather from people who have done it on a forced, truncated timeline. We're in a different system here where we're actually taking time to try to give an opportunity to do this in a meaningful way, understanding that it's going to be difficult, but also giving some people time to have some.
So I'm a Potter College of Arts and Letters graduate. One of my major went through this process before. Talk to me a little bit about how you're balancing a shift to market and degrees that are connected to careers while still maintaining a focus on disciplines, being educated people, education for education's sake. I just think folks need to understand that that's still the core of what Potter does.
It is, I think, because our college is so unique that we have a good mix of degree programs that teach fundamental skills that can be shared across the academy, but also specializations as well. Those conversations are always ongoing, so we do have to make sure that we maintain that level of understanding and also academic rigor. And that involves through conversation with curriculum. Our office has been very instrumental in some of the new curriculum that has come through. To have conversations with faculty to say, we know what you're trying to do. Can you tell us how we can maintain the academic rigor, but also make it market aware? And I have been in those conversations with our associate dean to help with that. So the personal connection is the big main reason is sustainable.
The other question for me is, and I've seen this in other institutions, we talk about the importance of maintaining enrollment in majors so that a College of Arts and Letters doesn't become a service organization for the rest of the institution.
Yeah. That is always a point of concern. It was when I entered here. And it's not that I don't want to put ourselves in a position where we do just only serve, but we also have to realize that our degree programs have value on their own. And so that's the balance that we also teach as well, is that if you go out with a major in English, yes, there is an array of careers you can explore, but a discipline in English, that is your major and that's valuable by itself. So that's a delicate balance. It's something that you always have to have a conversation about, and it's always something that you have to keep in the front of your mind. I don't think there's a perfect solution for it, but you just always have to make sure there's a checks and balances.
Brian, you're not asking for approval today, but what things can the board consider? What things can we offer to help you and aid the college in this process?
I think, just as Regent Spiller said, if you have individuals who do have questions, tell them to come talk to me one-on-one. I do patio chats all the time. Now, are we going to get to a place where we may agree wholeheartedly across the board? No, but I enjoy hearing the feedback because it does strengthen the process. Say, for instance, we didn't have commitment memos in this next phase, but from reading the feedback, it found out that there were some real fears of what people may lose. So we put commitment memos so people can articulate clearly, these are the things that as we move into this new marriage that we want to protect. So those conversations have been beneficial.
Absolutely, fear of loss is one of the major things that drives fear of change. And I think that, and this is my own take looking at it, I can see people feeling a loss of identity. Potter College celebrated its 60th year. These departments have a long history. They have, and you're merging them together with people. They have to create new structures and new processes to be a part of that. And you say, you know, in some of your things, bigger is better. It'll allow for better pathways for the students and others. I think that's a little. I don't know if you're more of an expert in humanities than me, but a history degree or an English degree versus something from the school, it seems to have more of an identity to me, but then that's an uninformed take. But it's that loss of identity that I think
I think what I want to talk about a little bit about it is that, yes, we're changing the structure, but the emphasis on the degree program. And that's what we really want to make sure that's tight. That gets lost sometimes in a department. We have departments already that have 8 degree programs. School of Media and Communication has 8 degree programs. In conversations with those people since 2022, do I feel like that they've lost the identity of the degree program? No. It's actually created new ideas. Advertising and public relations, being able to integrate with those conversations may have been difficult before. A new master's in comm that is completely online. And I commend those faculty for having those hard conversations. Mixing people who focus largely on research and practitioners and putting them together to what kind of new ideas can happen. And that's what we've seen from that school. So we've used that to be able, and I'm thankful for those people to be able to do that, to give us some information on how this can go.
Brown, was there comparison to the benchmarks for where those like units actually are in other places, like for example, history, like where it fell at the other benchmarks to determine like maybe where we would have had that collaborate?
To be honest, and going back to your comments, I got a lot of comments as well that say, well, why does it matter? Because you know where you want us to go. And I can have an idea of where I want you to go, but that didn't materialize in these schools. Say, for instance, with history. After conversation with those folks, I probably would have said, oh, well, you can go with English and we would have a humanities school. That wasn't the identity we had here. There's two mindsets. There's a humanities focus and there's a social sciences focus. And that's part of the opportunity there. It's kind of figure out where they found to be best.
That's where I was looking to see if benchmarks gave
Yeah.
any lead to where others have it and what the benefit was in both of those benchmarks to see if that supported
We've seen
maybe
both.
what you looked at.
Yeah, we've seen both, but when it really boils down to is trying to figure out what's best for our folks. And
Right. Well, that's where I was looking to see if there were pros and cons and what you avoided by the benchmark to give you that,
There has been,
to use that to your advantage.
yes, I would say answer to yes to all of that. And that's why I think that's where a little bit of an enigma right now to try to figure out.
So as higher education itself enters into a period of tremendous pressure, we've been entering into it for a while, we're there now. My concern is just simply, it's not simple, looking at that impending change and not making change for the sake of change, because maybe something different is a little bit better. And I'm not saying this is what this is a broader statement. What we all have to be concerned about is someone making changes and then their data is great and they go someplace else. Then we get a new leader in and comes in and changes it right back, because then they get to, and I've been in higher education long enough to see that many, many times. What is different is better than what we have. And just, is that always the case? And I would just like to see some true metrics of what we expect out of this and how it's going to be, as opposed to broader things of students will be able to find this, students, you know, those are general statements to me. So
If you would like, you can take a look at my PCAL 4's speeches, my Jumpstart. They're sent to all the faculty. You will find some data points in this latest that may help you in a meaningful way.
well, I expect you to turn those over to the guys who get to make the decision. I'm merely advisory here.
No, but I mean, you're part of our campus community, correct? And you have people who are coming to you, and I would like you to be able to give them guidance. So, yeah, feel free to do that. And when you talk about restructuring just for someone to fill up their vita, I would hope now that my investment in the institution personally would have been shown. And that question has come up, and I've addressed with people directly. If you think that I'm using this as a way to benefit my vita, no. Do I really want sleepless nights? No. Do I want opportunities while I'm up at 4 a.m. thinking about what's the best way to serve our people in this college? No. Do I want to be up that early thinking about how we protect our students and the future of our disciplines as we see many pressures around us? No. My investment is one that is not only professional, but personal, because I believe in these programs. And if someone thinks differently, that's okay. But I would love to engage in a meaningful conversation with them.
One of the things for me, Shane, that comes out of this, and it is frequently a challenge for folks who are stuck in their disciplines to kind of find questions to ask that are funded research questions. And those typically happen at the edges of disciplines and where they overlap and interact. And so as I've been giving my feedback and talking about, I think that is a place where when you go back and look at the schools and folks that are going to essentially marinate with one another together as they do in all school faculty meetings, are there ways to encourage people to work across disciplinary lines and identify research opportunities in a way that when you're in your silo or department, you might not do? I think that also is going to be an outgrowth of this, just by mere proximity. Right? That happens a lot too.
And not only, and the staff efficiency, being able to work together collectively.
Question, comment? Thank you, Dean Brown. Heather, I approve this.
Thank you, Sharon. That's all we had.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we move on to, audit.
Thank you, Chair West. Without objection, I'm gonna take, finance budget and audit items 1 and 2 as consent agendas. Any questions, comments? Not, I entertain a motion that be approved. Motion. Second. Motion made and seconded, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, get into the meat and potatoes here. Item 3, approval of 2026-27 operating budget. Susan Howe.
Okay, well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for allowing me to present the 27 budget for your consideration. So I think you'll see on the cover, it's our brand new field house. I think it's a great shot, and so here we go. So I've asked that we keep this informal and ask questions as we move through it. I think it's one of the most important items that a board will take action on during its so. So I'll cover some budget highlights and then move on to, I think it's really important that the board quickly understand all that they're approving as part of the budget. And then we'll also cover some information items that are not action items for you, but rather I think it's important to know it's part of the overall finance of the university. Some revenue highlights, expense highlights, and then some next steps. So budget highlights. Here we go. So in the year that we're currently in, or the fiscal year 26 budget, our budget was just over 404 million. The budget that we present to you today is just over 405 million. So that's a nice increase of $1 million. So as I say to people, and I remember back in the day of just being a young budget person, we sometimes get very tied into our numbers and we want to just talk about our numbers. But every budget needs to tell a story because there's reasons that decisions are made from leadership and passed through as we make budget decisions. So the first one I think that's really important is that we always use the strategic plan of the university to guide all of our budget decisions. And I think the board knows, because many of these sit on our committees, is that we're right in the middle of updating our strategic plan. The committees, and I should say that the committee itself, the steering committee, is being chaired by Murphy and by Bryson Davis. And we have passed our recommendations on to President Caponi, and he will take the summer to review those and formulate any changes and present it to the campus at their faculty staff convocation in August. Our second guiding principle, which is very important to our students, is that we preserve affordability and student success. So always have that top of mind for us. Third would be, which is really important to me, so I get a big smile on my face, to maintain a structurally balanced operating budget. As the board probably knows, we just did that. We don't want to go back to where we were when President Caponi first got here. We've got that done, and we're on a path of sustainable financially going forward. The fourth guiding principle would be to avoid across-the-board budget reductions to the extent possible. And finally, always prioritize. Do any questions on those? Okay. So talking about student success, I think graphically you will see that this story, these graphs can really tell a story. So if you go back to when Dr. Caponi first came to campus in 2017, we were at a first-year retention rate of hovering around 70%. And today, we're at approaching 80%. So I've got to say, this is incredible work for the entire campus, because this doesn't happen just within pockets of the university. It's across the campus. And this is just almost an unheard of trajectory over this short a time period. So congratulations to our campus, and something that I think everyone should be proud of. So like is the 6-year baccalaureate graduation rate. So again, at our WKU campus, the graduation rate was just over 50%. Today, it's right at 59%, approaching 60%. Again, just a great news story for our campus. And finally, one that I take great pride in, that this shows you undergraduate degrees and credentials and ranked institutions within the state. So their UK is the leader, and then right below that would be us, WKU, and ahead of the other red institution just north of us. And I will say, I know that Regent Dennison asked me and others, do we have our 26 numbers? And we don't, because we are still conferring degrees in the summer. So that will be final in the fall, and but we expect to do even better. So looking at our budget assumption, so on the revenue side, so go back to the structurally balanced budget. You always want to make sure that your revenue projection is driving your expenditure decisions. You don't want to do vice versa, or that will get you back to a structurally imbalanced budget very quickly. So we take this part and we start on our enrollment projection in the fall. And we started developing that in 2025 in conjunction with academic affairs, enrollment management, the finance team under Ronaldo, institutional research, and the deans. And I'm going to turn it over. I think enrollment is extremely, extremely important to our budget. I'm going to turn it over to John Mark Francis, who leads our enrollment on campus, and let him speak to our efforts and some updates and so on and so forth. So.
Sure. Good morning. As we enter the final 2.5 months of our yield season, we're in a good position of doing so from strength. If we look at our admit pool for incoming freshmen, that's setting up more than 20%. And so we have that population of students from which we can yield. And Susan mentioned the collaborative nature of this process. The academic deans have been involved every month. We sit at the table in the president's office and talk through the development of yield strategies. Our preliminary projections for the fall semester show continued improvement on overall net tuition revenue. We talk about that quite often, but looking at the freshman class revenue likely coming in somewhere between 900,000 and 1.2 million up year over year, and continuing to drive down that discount rate. We've talked about that. I've talked with you all about that frequently, and you've heard us talk about how nationally there's that pressure with discount rates hitting all-time record highs. I think about 58% now. And we will come in using institutional funds. That's not counting opportunity funds and other private sources, but institutional funds under 30%. So continued movement there, healthy pipelines, a lot of work with our colleagues across campus as we decentralize this idea that recruitment is the function of one office or one team, and really getting the entire campus involved in the process. So we will continue that work as we have those one-on-one conversations and talk to those families about the value and benefits of the WKU experience.
So, gentlemen, before you sit down, could you speak a little bit about what you shared about time to degree and how that's changed?
Yes, absolutely. So doing the right thing by our students has some effects on the institution as well as we do long term. So you take graduating the largest number of students ever in the spring semester, those students aren't coming back to pay tuition in the fall semester. If you look at our average time to degree, dropping from 4.3, 4.4% or 4.4 years down to 4.02 in this most recent year, that's absolutely tremendous, and it's the right thing to do, and it's absolutely the direction to go. But it has revenue implications. And so as we sit around a table and make decisions about the kind of students we want to recruit, we want those high quality students. But it takes some additional planning on the financial aid side to make sure that we're able to cover the cost and do business at the university as we get these students to graduation.
It also has a true cost for the students as well.
That's the benefit. Yes, our students are leaving here with less debt. They're getting into jobs and earning income and getting that boost that comes with having a college degree. earlier, and it will pay out for them many times over the course of their life.
So, well, didn't think I hit anything, but, anyway, so to cover the other items, so the second, bullet under enrollment would be, after enrollment would be state appropriation. That's our second largest revenue. As you all remember, we talked about it throughout, the session starting in January. The governor's budget that was released was flat to higher education, and both the House and Senate released that reduced higher education. So thank goodness for all the work of our president, Jennifer Smith. It couldn't have been any later that at the last day signing, at the very last minute, they restored the budget cuts to higher education. So we're very thankful for that. We could always like to have new money, but thankfully no cut to higher education. And then our auxiliary and our other self-supporting revenues, they're projected separately, primarily by their respective deans, vice presidents, and their budget managers. So moving on to the expenditure side, the first one, the assessment of that is very important. We do at the university, like I think most people do in their own personal budgets, you must fund fixed cost increases and contractual increases first before you go to anything else, because if you don't, you're being foolish because those increases are there. So I want to move to the second important bullet. So we look to our budget executive committee to help guide our budget decisions. One of their recommendations is always a salary recommendation. So in accordance with their recommendation to executive leadership, we accepted it. And it, at this point, with this budget that you take action on today, does not include a salary or compensation pool for our faculty and staff. But a caveat to that, which is a very important caveat, so I want everyone to understand this, is that we always do, and we will continue to reconvene the leadership, deans, vice presidents, myself, Bud, Ronaldo and his group will reconvene in probably late September, early October, when our fall enrollments become final, to evaluate to see if our revenue and our enrollment would support a salary. If it does, we would put that into effect in the January timeframe like we always have. So I just want everyone to understand, while it's not included in this document, in this budget, we will reconvene in the fall to make that decision. And the final bullet was, at this point juncture, there are no unit-based budget reductions. Okay, a little on budget governance. So this is the graphic that I typically share with the board. I think it's important that everyone understands that the BEC, Budget Executive Committee, sits in the center there with all the various constituency groups having input into that committee. So the faculty senate, the staff senate, student government, our academic college leadership, and our VPs make recommendations into the BEC. They spend a lot of time. They meet bi-weekly throughout the entire academic year, and they formulate recommendations up to the executive leadership. The first one being the most important that we just talked about, the salary. So our RAMP budget report. So this is a lot of numbers and a lot of detail, which I won't go all through, but I did want to note that this is simply basically half of the report, and it focuses on the they are the center of our budget. They receive all the revenue, and as they should be. We're an institution, we're an academy where the focus should be on our academic units. So I just wanted to briefly go over how the revenues and expenses are allocated in this model. So first, tuition and fees are allocated amongst our colleges, 75% to the College of Instruction, or where the actual credit hours are produced, and 25% to the College of Enrollment, so where the student is actually enrolled. Scholarships and fellowships, our financial aid, is allocated out by undergraduate tuition revenue. Grants and contracts while there's a 1-year lag, they're allocated out based on where they are earned. State appropriation, the allocation for that is 80% on, I'm gonna go to my, on credit hour production, 15% on research, and 5% on performance, which is primarily degrees. Your direct expenses are allocated out based on where they occur. So your wages and salaries by college, your fringe benefits by college, and your operating expenses. Your indirect expenses are those allocation pools that come over from the support units. So I always like to take one example. It's the easiest for me to get my head around. So facilities, for example, the units get charged back based on the square footage that they actually maintain or they use. So looking at your revenues, subtracting, this is a lot like an income statement, right, Sheriff Roddy? So looking at your revenues and taking out your direct expenses, your indirect expenses leaves you with a margin. And then from that, you take away your participation fee. And the participation fee, as a reminder, is 13% of tuition and state appropriation. And that will then take you to, there you go, basically the margin or the profit or loss by college. So you'll see that one of our colleges, the College of Health and Human Services, is actually in the black. And then to differing degrees, our colleges are in the red a bit. So it's at this point, I think it's important to turn this over to the provost to talk about what he's done with his colleges on subvention and what he did and how he made those decisions. And so, Bud, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, can we go back to the slide? As you see, what you would see is that the amount of money we have is $32 million to allocate. I get a proportion of that money to allocate to see whether or not to do two things. One is to get the colleges out of debt, which is, you can see 3 or 4 of the 5 are in debt. And the second part is to then use an incentive to be able to move them forward to try to reach the goals that they have told me. So before any of this happens, what I usually do is send them out a set of questions that ask about metrics. What are your goals for next year? What are you trying to accomplish? Did you accomplish last year's goals? Those types of things. The second part of that is a list of about 20 metrics that they have to give me numbers for. That's a 3-year running average that shows me whether they're moving in a direction or not. What I will say is that I started here and I looked at this $9 million in the hole. And I will tell you, the first time that we ever did a ramp model, that was at almost 15 million. So what we've seen is about a $6 million decline in that over time, which tells me one thing is that they are much more efficient as time has gone on and have engulfed or taken care of the ramp model and understand the ramp model and are using it to be able to move forward. So because I saw that and that was still happening, I felt like since we've been able to find $7 million, I need to get them out of debt. Nobody should sit in debt at that point. So I get everybody out of debt. That leaves me about $1.2 million. At that point, what I do is to decide how I distribute that. And how I've decided to distribute that goes by how much you have moved in the metrics we see and what the answers are of what the goals are for the future. And you, as you can see, at this point, Gordon Ford got the most and Steve's got the second most. 2 colleges that have made incredible changes, have looked to the future on how to move enrollment forward, have looked to the future about how to change education, have changed curriculum to get students to be here and to make them modern. All the things we've been asking for, so they get the most. Others are still moving in that direction. Everybody did get some money because I think everybody should get a little bit of money to ultimately allow them to kickstart some new initiative that could help them move in a direction. And that's how I make those decisions to ultimately take care of the dollars.
One thing I would add, Bud, is
Yes.
The College of Health
Yeah.
and Human Services, they actually keep that 200.
Yeah, I mean, it says 50,000, but it's really 50 times 281,000. because they get to keep the money too. So if I was really fixing it, I would fix it so that it said $350,000.
So this is what our fourth grant budget, I think, or so. So we've looked at these over time, and each one of them, we're making decisions in that year. But the only thing I can do, as we all try to learn and understand this, is try to understand trends here. In one trend, I already emailed Susan about this, is the indirect expenses. And the indirect expenses going up $5 million approximately $5 million last year. And there's some accounting things, some of that, and moving things around, but we've had 4 years of that, and we see that each year, but then we're making decisions with the budget in that time. Without that $5 million of additional indirect expenses, Potter would be net zero, and Seeds would be net zero, and College Business would have been profitable. It's like, this additional $5 million in expenses that got thrown on them, and then we go all the way down to the bottom and we start talking about their margin. Will we have more adjustments to the indirect expenses next year? Because it seems hard that we're making those decisions in real time, but over time, there's still accounting adjustments and things that's happening deep within the model that may not be fair to the decision makers in those colleges, if that makes any sense. Because it's additional $5 million they didn't have to cover for last year.
So, just so everyone, there was a big change one year. That was because of the 24 million structurally balancing credit that we had in the budget. When we took that out, which was good, that actually increased the support budgets, yes, the support expenses. So that means the academic units got charged back a larger indirect. But as many of the deans said when we explained this, is that basically the colleges were being over subvented at that point. So to this year, to the $5 million, as I explained to you, Shane, the good news is we're not allocating all of the financial aid out to the academic units as we did last year. We're holding some of that within financial aid to make sure that our strategies are in line. But when you hold that in financial aid, that increases that financial aid savings. Okay. Now, the other thing we did, there was some debt service for DSU that for whatever reason, when the model was first built, it sat in an auxiliary unit. We made the correction and moved that debt service out to where the other debt service resides. So yes, that did increase the chargeback, but it also reduced the auxiliary budget, which means there was less subvention for that auxiliary, which gave the academic units more subvention. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And Shane?
Kind of.
Well, I think it's money moving, and it's always going to happen, right? We're sitting at the edge, right, of balanced. What you really hope is that the change comes and you're not at balance and you start to grow on the other side. And as you grow on the other side, more and more dollars become available for subvention and for one-time money. I mean, but what I want to make, the point I really want to make is that money that they get is an incentive. And you can see that there's a difference in what each group gets. And that's related to what that college has done that last year and really over the 3-year period as I look. I mean, some of the numbers I remember is I get booklets from these guys now, like so that we can have discussions. And if I think of Gordon Ford, I think it was a 42% increase in graduate enrollment since 23-24, something like that, if I remember right. Not perfect, but and those are the kinds of things I see as I walk along and I look at, and I'm trying to give the maximum amount of money that I can out to be able to move them forward even greater. And that in the old budget, you would have never got that, right? I mean, they wouldn't have seen that in a large number of cases. In this budget, I have tried, and I think we all have tried as we've looked at the numbers to give them the best we can.
Yeah. And I always go back to creating a new budget model is not the sexiest thing you can do when you come to the institution. But it was crucial for what we built. And what's exciting for me, because you can think about what the effects are, but to see it occurring, and for me, it's not the budget effect. It's actually
the collaborative effect and the pressure that deans feel. So one of the impetuses for the conversation that Potter College is having are these numbers and trying to get to good. There's pressure on Dean Brown from his dean colleagues to make that $7 million number where it says margin lower. Why? Because it's more money for everyone. And it also rewards growth in enrollment. And it's, for me, it's fun to watch leaders at the academic level create the change within their units that are going to move these numbers, but move them for the right reasons, because they're increasing retention, they're increasing enrollment, they're increasing degree production, they're growing research. And so I'll go all the way back to what I first said when I talked about why do a decentralized budget model. The reason is because it incentivizes deans to both be innovative and focus on the number that matters, which is the enrollment number. I will remind you of the dean who said to me, enrollment management is not my problem, it's their problem. And that our budget practice was every dean got a number out of thin air on a sticky note that said, do not go over this amount. And now we're here.
I just wonder, could we get a fiscal year 26 ramp budget report at some point too? Do you
Sure.
have it?
We have.
I don't have it in front of me. Shane, with it, just to, I mean, I'd just like to compare, see where we
Sure.
are as opposed to last year. Or even the year before that. Every year we should be getting better, right? Every year. So.
Yeah, I mean, the one number that went up, I could tell you, would be the number associated with Gordon Ogden. And the reason it went up has to do with the fact that we changed the numbers we were using when we did that. Their amount of space went up, which is not good, but Ogden needs space. I mean, they have lots of labs, they have lots of areas, they have lots of centers, they have lots of those kinds of things that every science area has. And if you look, their space amount that they pay over is about 2.5 million more than everybody else. So it's a huge expense for Dave that Dave has to try to deal with in this regard. The other thing is we were using the numbers from 17, right? And we decided as a group that numbers of 23. So to be 2 years behind instead of 5 years behind, which is where we started. And in doing so, Ogden took a hit at that.
And one of the, I think this is, Melissa, to your point, I think this would be good for us to do at the retreat. We could, let's put multiple years next to each other so we can show that, just like we've done with the enrollment and retention and graduation, we can do it with the budget model.
We'll do that.
And I also will add that, this model was very difficult to work with the $24 million carry forward problem embedded into the budget. So I think from a pure financial perspective, this is incredible work that our colleges have done, given that we, in the middle of all this, we had to readjust our budget by 24 million.
As someone that's tried to grapple with these numbers now for over a decade and never really understood all of it, I'm not sure my job to try to understand. My job is to be sure you all do, but I remember seeing CF, you know, and what does that mean? Carry, well, it was carry forward. Never understood that really.
Neither did we.
Yeah.
It seems to me to answer the question about transparency, it seems to me this is a lot more transparent than it used to be. Now, it always needs to improve. And it's always going to change and fluctuate year to year, month to month, whatever. But it also seems to me that having deans intimately involved has been a really good thing. And that's really what I have to say.
I think it's an
improvement over what I used to do.
I think you hit it on the head. I think deans being intimately involved is very important. And the conversations that go on between myself and the deans when we're talking about budget are in-depth conversations in a large number of cases, and our conversations about how do we move the whole. This model works much better if you're not just looking at your own college, but you're looking at all of the colleges, and how do we help everybody become efficient or do things differently or move forward, and how can I help you do that? If you do that, the model works great. And that's what they've been great at doing that.
It's up to each dean then to ferret that down even further to the department chairs or whatever. I'm sure each one does it
Yeah.
differently.
And it's up to them to find synergy between each other and to find ways to work together and ways to help each other move forward. And that's one of the things that I think has allowed us to make curricular changes and some of the other changes that we've seen that have helped us get here.
And while I'm talking, I do want to point out to Terrence in particular, I was heartened to see some really positive comments on the faculty survey on terms of how he's handled things, or not that other deans haven't too, but you gave your report. I was thinking, gee, guys really trying to do a good job.
I'll say that the one thing that I know that I'm good at is knowing what I'm not good at. And what I mean by that is that I can't think I have a good team. And even if they support or not, it's good to have that level of conversation because it makes you better. And we just want to make sure that we are doing our active part to contribute positively to this number and to ensure that this institution continues to live on. I'll say one thing, I'm sorry, but perception of this institution externally is really good. Whenever I travel around and I hear people talk about Western Kentucky University, I get nothing but I love that place, why I was connected to that place. I think sometimes we forget because we're embedded in it so much, but we just want to make sure that we're able to send those people out and continue to celebrate the joys and good things that we're doing in this institution.
Keeping students first and foremost, and then being fair to faculty and staff is really a difficult balancing act. And I'm sure there's a lot of frustration every day and people that are trying to do that well.
So as someone who, following Regent Bell's point, someone who got to the old budgets.
Shane, you need to speak up.
I'm still getting, I'm not, they're struggling with the microphone over there, you're hearing that feedback. Someone who got to do the old budgets and the new budgets, when we transitioned to ramp, we had multiple goals, and structurally balanced budget was one of them, and we're there, and that is a major accomplishment. I just, I have to speak to, and the provost and I've already had these conversations, the tension that comes in the model, because there's a slow movement towards recognizing those areas that are growing and getting the revenues there. And when it was sold on campus, I went through that transition. It went to the colleges and they said, hey, if you grow, we're going to get resources to you. It's a lot slower in practice than it was in promise. So that's creating a tension in those areas that are doing well. And just to that's something to improve on, something to recognize, but it's still much better than where we were. There's no doubt about that.
Well, I mean, that's back to that structure or thing budget. I mean, as we grow and we do those kinds of things, the money will get better, right? As we look, but I think in every case, we've been able to show that we've given extra dollars, and in giving extra dollars allowed things to move forward. And to me, that's an incentive that would have never been in if we were under the old budget. And, jobs or positions have moved from one areas to other areas at this point because there's been needs in areas that grow, like Gordon Ford, where you grow 42%, right? And you may not have any money left to hire somebody, but it's in my court then to figure out how to hire somebody. We've been able to do those kinds of things too. So, not as fast as I'd like either, Shane. I'd be the first person to say that, but I at least look back to where we were, and we were the 13% wasn't enough to cover what we were in debt when we started, and this whole world has changed for us. And I would say I'm proud of everybody on campus that this is where we are, and And Susan and her team have done an incredible job to get us there and to understand the model.
Yeah, so,
You want me to?
did you have more? No, you're good.
Oh, no, we've got.
Please, carry on.
So, as I told you to begin with, I think it's important for the board to understand what they're approving as when they take action on the budget. Not only are you approving the overall budget, but you would be approving a tuition, a flat, rate for our undergraduate resident, tuition, and that would be an increase of 204. And that equates to a 1.69% increase. So to remind you, we had a 2-year cap that we were given from the CPE, and we could not exceed, I know Brian will keep me honest, $630. Yes. And we did 420 last year. So this year we could have gone up 210. We're going up of 204. Some other information items. So housing rates, while they differ amongst some of our communities, overall the rate would be approximately around a 5% increase. Our meal plans are scheduled to go up 2%, and that's a contractual increase with Aramark. Big Red Backpack is increasing from $24 a credit hour to $26 a credit hour, and that's been a huge success for our students. Some revenue highlights. So we are as we talked about, a tuition dependent university, which is not different than most today. But it goes back to what John Mark talked about. Enrollment and net tuition revenue is extremely important. It makes up 47% of our budget. Our second largest source would be state appropriation. I like to say that if we were sitting around the table 20 years ago and we were talking about this, that would have been completely flip-flop, with state putting in much more than what they put in today. So
As a percentage of budget.
yes, sorry. So tuition and fee revenue. So again, the revenue budget is built on that tuition rate, about 1.69. And net tuition revenue across all of the populations is scheduled to go up 4.6 million or 3.4. And as John Mark talked about, we built the budget on a freshman class, which would generate about 1.1 million in net tuition. So our revenue highlight and drivers, just some on this, our state appropriation is declining by about 800,000. Just as a reminder, our base appropriation is flat. Gatton Academy is receiving a nice increase of $500,000. Performance funding, which just continues to be a problem for just about everybody in this state, except for the University of Kentucky. Unfortunately, with our metrics still performing well and all of those stories we talked about, we are losing some money in the performance funding.
Susan, could I address that? I think it's important for the board to know. The legislature just appointed the Performance Funding Review Committee, where we're going to take a look at the model, how it has worked and how it needs to be revised. The best example that I can use to demonstrate how it has failed us is the multiplier that's used for the sort of universities in the state, Louisville and Kentucky. You saw we produced second most credentials and degrees in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. And if the dollars were allocated based upon actual performance, we would have gotten money from that performance metric. But then the model takes 1.5 and multiplies the number of degree students granted. And so all of a sudden, Kentucky goes from whatever their number was to 1.5 times that. Louisville does the same thing. Louisville leapfrogs us, and all of a sudden we're taking a reduction on that metric because we didn't meet the performance of the two research universities. It's not sustainable over time, and we must address that as a group of both presidents and legislators. That work begins this summer, happen over a year. Those will be difficult conversations, and particularly because the University of Kentucky likes the model, obviously, as it exists today. But we're gonna work towards something that's more equitable.
So grants and contracts, will decline about 4.3 million. Nothing we can control. This is all at the federal level. Unfortunately, there is a decline expected for our, federal student financial aid, which is unfortunate for our most needy students, and also reducing of the number of extramurally, funded research for our faculty. So, things are out of our control. So other revenue is an increase of about 4.6 million. Most of that increase is directly related to additional foundation revenue being transferred into WKU, and that is directly associated with new athletic private donations. Finally, our auxiliary of 1.5 million. And again, all of that is directly associated with really efficiencies within our P3, and a lot of the revenue associated with housing not running through the university anymore, but running outside through the developer and the Inwood who maintains the facility. So expenses. Again, like tuition heavy on the revenue side, we're personnel heavy on the expense side. No different than any other institution. We've seen this type of comparison across the board. So, but that's our largest category within expense, making up about 45% of our budget, student financial aid. But that does include federal and state aid, about 119 million or 29% of our budget. Expense drivers, so personnel, again, the changes that I talked about with the P3, rather than those salaries running through our books, they'll run through Inwood's books. And so you see that decline for personnel. And also health insurance is going up, and the budget includes a contingency for the premium increase. Student financial aid, a decline, again, associated with those, well, first off, reduction in the financial assistance for the institution that John Mark talked about, and then the anticipated declines in the federal and state aid. The supplies and operating expense increasing about 10.3 million. That's a large increase, I understand, but almost 5 million of that is that fundraising money now being transferred from the foundation over to the university, directly associated with athletic fundraising. That's about half of it. The other half is directly associated with leases that sit outside the P3, and that's the lease with Center Hall and the lease with Campus Flats. That's not within our P3. And finally, maintenance and utilities, a decline of about 3.2 million. Again, I guess you see the theme here. That's the P3 driving this. The utilities will be billed directly to our P3 partners rather than running through the university and us billing back as we did with the Student Life Foundation. Next steps. So today you will take action on the budget, and we hope that you approve it, and then it would move to the CPE, the tuition rates. They have statutory authority for approving tuition in the state of Kentucky, so they would take action on the tuition rates at that point. Then we would load all of this data, which is lots of data, in from our Axiom budget software into our general ledger. And finally, Rush, and then you can ask us some questions. We will continue monitoring our enrollment and our financial aid. We will continue doing our monthly monitoring as we started several years ago of our finances, both revenue and expenditure, on a monthly basis with all the deans and vice presidents. And then that critical date in September, October timeframe, we will reevaluate our tuition revenue, our enrollments, and make a consideration for our compensation. So now I'm ready for questions, Rush.
So if my math is correct, and it definitely might not be, we're $6 short of what we could increase it. So why not the full 630?
I knew somebody was going to answer that. So Unfortunately, our systems are made in such a way, and I'll turn to Ronaldo, who will probably speak to this much more brilliantly than I can. It's the same thing happens at Louisville. The same thing happens at every institution in the state. So we want to make sure our per credit tuition rate comes to either, let's say an example, 220 per credit hour or 220.50 per credit hour. Nowhere in between drives the systems crazy. So that's the reason you have to come to a number that will make that divisible. So, right, Ronaldo?
Yep, that covers it.
Okay, I did it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so I think I understand. I mean, CPE has like a limit on how much an institution. John Mark, ours is less than like other institutions in Kentucky. I don't love that. Like that is the thing that's like making us okay with it. As I understand it, it's kind of been explained as a necessary evil when it comes to like higher education. I do think though, like as a student representative, like if we're going to, one of our guidelines will be to preserve affordability and student access. We have to do whatever we can to not raise that tuition. Like if we're considering the meal plans are rising and housing, big red backpack, we understand we have to, but I think we should. It shouldn't just be like, oh, well, we can increase it. We're gonna increase it that way. I don't know. I think we should try. And I'm not saying you don't have to screw you guys up for not increase it, but I don't know.
It's a good point, and we continue to focus on maintaining affordability. Don't look at, and please do not look at only the sticker price, but the net tuition price, right? So we have after aid, after discount, all of that. It's important to think about what the actual effect of raising tuition is. But this is what keeps me up at 4 o'clock in the morning, Terrence. If you look at how CPE has constrained our ability to raise tuition, and they've done a good job at that over the past decade. We've raised tuition less than 2% annually on students. Is it every year? It is. But it's the environment in which we live that's driving some portion of that. And by that, I mean, you think about what the inflationary pressures are on families, the same inflationary pressures exist for universities. We are running now at probably the higher education price index, HEPI. We're running at 4 or 5% annually. What does that mean for our budget? It means that our expenses go up 4 or 5%. And then you think about what are the other revenue opportunities. Can you hear me, Kurt? Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay. The other drivers are state appropriation. And if you think about what happened this session, I hate saying I'm thankful for no cut. I'm grateful that we didn't have a 7 or 8% reduction to the state appropriation, because the conversation we would be having today would be a very different conversation. That's a reduction in what was it, $7 million? I don't know how we absorb that. And that was the conversation that we had with legislators, and they heard us. And for that, I am thankful. But we have to get to a place as a Commonwealth where legislators and leaders understand that to continue the economic growth that we have to invest in one of the drivers of that economic growth, which is higher education. And so we're going to continue to push on every revenue stream. But the reality is inflation is biting any margin we have because of the increase in expenditures. And it's similar to what individual households feel when an increase doesn't cover the cost increases in just living, then you're losing ground. And so I think that's kind of where we are as an institution as well. And we have to turn the corner on that, both with CPE in terms of if we're not going to have investment, we have to generate revenue. I do not want to do it on the backs of students and families. So, dear legislature, we don't want to do this on the backs of students and families. Please see what we do, and we have got to move to a different place as a Commonwealth. And it's hard, right? This is hard work, because it's not just numbers, right? This is about people and lives and our mission as an institution. But it is tight tight. But still proud of the work we've done.
was having a conversation with my roommate last night. He pays his tuition out of pocket and like just works. And I mean, this is like, I'm thinking, oh, $200, like it could be worse, could be, $600-700, but like this, I mean, this is like a couple weeks of work, like straight up, like for somebody that isn't able to take out loans. I don't know. I mean, Dr. Bell, if we're gonna, say that students are like the most important thing, we have to like consider students that are, this is like their like, it is tight. That's a great word.
This is why we all need to do a better job of educating the public on why a degree does matter. I mean, there are a lot of people out there today who don't think a college degree is worth it. And yet we know, and that there's data and evidence to back it up, that having that degree is going to not only enrich your life in other ways than just monetary, but it makes a big difference over a lifetime of earning. And that's something that everybody on this board, every faculty member, every staff person needs to educate everybody they interact with every chance they can.
A couple of years ago, when I voted against the budget with some others, part of my rationale for that was I felt like we need to send a message to the state, for legislators, that these cuts are not sustainable, that we have budget cut and budget. When he came on board, I told him, there's not a lot of fat here. There's not a lot of expenses to cut anymore, yet they're still trying to do that. Already incredibly lean. I tell people about offices across campus. I've used the descriptor before. We pushed them to the point of bend but don't break. They're praying in some of those places that they don't break because of the needed chasing for efficiencies year after year, new efficiencies on top of what we've already done. So that messaging is incredibly, because we're existing on very old numbers in terms of what they're just, the legislature wants to push the cost of that to the students. And we're caught in the middle of trying to find a way to make that affordable for the students while still delivering what we're trying to do. I talked with John Mark about this, and I still believe part of our, Dr. Bell talks about our messaging. Our marketing or our community messaging, I understand marketing directly to students, hey, come to WKU and getting those at the same time. We don't have a great message going out to the community at all. And the marketing field is so fragmented now that the constituents who are informing these legislators, they're not hearing much about what we're really doing and the successes that we have, because they're not part of our target demographic on that. And that's, how do we get there? I have no idea. But it's not just the legislatures, the people who are voting for them are not seeing the value of us. And they're hearing something else. They're hearing about how evil faculty are, and they're hearing about all the terrible things that we're doing, and they're not seeing the students in my classroom. One of my favorite things as a regent was a student who was sitting on the first row of graduation and mouthed to me as I'm sitting up there and said, I got the job because I've been working with them on negotiations and things. And so they don't hear those stories. They hear all the negative things. And I'm not sure how to counter that, but the real impact of it is tuition goes up, or faculty don't get raises, staff don't get raises, or we can't hire people and we can't deliver the programs to the students that we need to be able to deliver to make a difference in the Commonwealth. Sorry for the rant.
Susan, I would be remiss if I didn't thank you and everyone in your department and all in the university community that were involved in this process. Certainly much appreciated.
And I want to thank Ronaldo. He's our AVP for Budget and Finance, and Brian Denning, who is our Executive Director of Budget. That's an office, well, actually, the budget office of one, and with Ronaldo too. And so they've done a lot of work, and thanks for the collaboration with the deans and vice presidents and provost and president, of course. So thank you too.
Are there any other questions or comments before we go to vote? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the fiscal year 2026-27 operating budget. Motion by Regent Dennis.
I second.
Second by Regent Nichols. Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Opposed by like sign?
Nay.
Motion passes, and we are going to get on to the next item. So I have to- Okay.
Okay, I was like, why is that movie and I didn't?
How are you?
How are you?
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, Jason was.
Oh, ones that are leading in education, like California, New York, Minnesota.
Yeah,
What, you know,
You, sir. There's.
I will tell you.
Unfortunately, people heard our. For some reason, I don't know when Shane asked the question. I don't know why people keep saying it. So you can go to. You can go to.
Y'all had some pretty, well, it's true.
Even like the.
I'm done.
Thursday, like you said about like every dollar put into like.
Similar.
That's long.
Must be anything about it. Get any time off.
That makes sense. I mean, when I first put my house, and then when I first put my.
I don't know, I guess, I'm looking for them, I haven't been in.
Quite a worth it.
I don't want to work from home and I don't want to work from my,
That's
I was in for a few minutes.
No,
I, from Georgetown, got a bar a few minutes.
George. No, that last name is kind of a few in Bowling Green.
Jason's in
like, yeah.
None in, I hope he's out here, Gabe. I saw him going into my figure.
So.
Well, we got the, we got the.
Okay. I'm gonna go back and forth.
If he doesn't ask, the answer's always no.
Anyway, I know what I
No.
mean.
Chuck, but I'll reach out for you, think about something.
That would be. Yeah, no, I feel like.
Yeah.
One item.
Did they take it down? I'll put a new one up later.
I was trying to give it to you earlier, but I didn't want to interrupt the conversation.
You put up that flag that looks exactly like it. That's from like Nigeria.
Yeah,
I would like to tweet those guys for a long time.
It would make it easy.
We're sitting.
I'm Curry.
I'm good, how are you?
These guys are
You know what I'm saying? No, Five star. I hope not. No, no.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get as much cleanup as I can. Possibly say what's their name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it, yeah. I like it.
Oh, I wanna be out. I wanna be out.
This would explain why I'm excited.
I
With-
Yeah.
James.
But when people come over, I think we're.
Okay, we are back in session with our meeting and.
Item 4, the approval of line of credit renewal, Susan.
Yeah, so just to remind everyone, this will be our 6th year with a line of credit in place with our bank. First for a few years with Truist, and we for the past couple of years we've been partners in banking with JP Chase. So this is just an annual review of our $10 million line of credit. We've never tapped into it, but as I said back in 2020, it's always best financially prudent to have one in place before you need it. And so this is just an annual review.
Any questions, comments? Not entertain a motion on credit.
Motion.
Motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Susan. Now, the 26-27 internal audit work plan, Mr. Bruce Wise.
Thank you, Chair Brody. So, good morning. We're going to talk about the audit plan for this year. If you want to follow along, there are a few more details in the printed materials that will be up on the screen. But before we talk about the plan, I just want to remind you all, we base this on a risk assessment that we do. So we survey faculty and staff, students, board members, and get a feel for what is the perception of risk around the university to help us build this audit plan each year. If you notice in your written materials that the audit plan looks like, the structure like it was in the prior year. We've got 5 planned projects on there. 3 of those came from that risk assessment that we did. We're going to look at effort reporting with the sponsored research group. We're going to continue our rotation through the colleges and hit up the College for Health and Human Services next year. And then the third item is we're going to do a risk assessment of minors on campus, which is really to just get a feel for where do we have minors on campus. We're walking around campus this morning, you saw a bunch of them at camps. Summer camps are big. When else do we have minors on campus? That's the goal of that project, is to help find out what that magnitude looks like. So in addition to the planned projects, we've got the 2 that are required. So we look at President's travel and payment expenses every year. Also the special license plate revenue required by the state. In addition to that, we'll continue our work with the process and system optimization work group. And finally, we'll work on the hotline and administer that as those hotline. Finally, we got a backup project on there. All that done, we've got something else in the hopper ready to go. In addition, we've laid out where we think we're going to be spending our time. This looks very similar to what it was last year. The big piece of the pie is projects and follow-up. So I'll just remind you, the follow-up part of that piece of the pie is after we issue an audit report, we continue to work with those areas and we validate that they have implemented procedures to mitigate the risks that we found in the audit report. So it's not that we just issue an audit report and go away. We hang with you until we get everything fixed up. The other slices of the pie are pretty consistent with prior year and with a little bit of wiggle room every year. So with that said, I'll respectfully request your approval for the audit plan unless there are any questions.
Any other questions or comments? Not, I entertain a motion to approve the 26-27 internal audit work plan.
So moved.
Made and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Information item?
Sure. Thank you all for the approval. So just our regularly quarterly update for you all. An update on this year's plan. We've got 4 projects. We'll see there's an asterisk next to the College of Educational and Behavioral Sciences. That's just because we've issued a draft report to leadership. They are working to put together their action plans and everything is going according to plan, but that's what the asterisk is for. We've got 2 remaining projects. The plan is to have those complete by the end of the fiscal year or very shortly thereafter. So the plan's looking really good for FY26. Again, looking at our time, where we've spent, on the left is where we've actually spent our time, and on the right is where we plan to spend our time. We're pretty close in all the pieces of the pie. Good news, I'd say the hotline is down 2%, and we've allocated that across the other slices. The follow-up items. Over on the left side, you can see that we have 13 items that are outstanding at the moment. That's the bar of 9 and the green bar that's 4. That's the 13 items that are outstanding. We're continuing to work with management to make sure that those get corrected. You can see the other 2 there, the 3 were implemented so far this year. So a good activity there. On the right side, how old are those outstanding items? You've got the bottom 2 bars, the yellow one at 6, the green one at 2. Those are brand new audit findings. Management is just getting started on those. The 2 bars above that, the 3 and the 2, they are older than 6 months, less than 12, and we're continuing to work with leadership on those to get those implemented. And we expect that they'll get implemented by our next meeting in November. If not, we'll get you an update at that time. The hotline. So far this year, we've worked on 11 hotline cases. See the asterisks on there. Since we last met, we received 4 hotline reports that were nearly identical. So rather than inflating our numbers, we counted that as just one. Wanted to be open and transparent with you all on that one. As we have just got a new hotline provider, we did reach out to confirm that it wasn't a system error on their end. They confirmed that and they just said, you have an overly eager reporter that wanted to let you know about that issue. And just for those watching at home, we appreciate you submitting 4 reports, but we're going to handle it the same way, whether it's 1 report or 4. So just to let everybody know. Out of the 11, we've closed 9. There's 2 remaining that we're working on right now. I don't think there's anything there with the board needs to know about. We're just working to wrap those up. No big risks related to those. Continue to let everyone know. Please reach out. If you have any concerns, you can reach out to me directly. My contact info is up there, and we've added a QR code with our new hotline provider that you can log on and report via the web if needed. This is one of my favorite slides in the deck today. This is a summary of our quality assessment review that we had in the summer of 24. I'm happy to report we have completed all those action items. We've checked the boxes. We've made those corrective measures that were found in that review. Going forward, we'll continue to do self-assessments. There's some new audit standards out there. We're always trying to get better. And so that's what we'll be doing now that we've moved on from these 10. Other updates, consultations for this year, we've received 47. Our annual goal is 50. So I'm hoping we'll cross that finish line here by June 30th. Promoting internal audit, we'll continue to do that. Just to let everyone know, we did our March Madness Bracket Challenge as we have since I've been here. Congrats to Jeremy Hickman, a part-time faculty member, on winning the challenge this year. He beat out 169 folks. And then I also want to call out Gary Bickett. He got second place for the second year in a row. So he's hoping that next year could be his year. Finally, the bottom item there, we serve 30 omelets to everyone at the finals breakfast. And because pictures say more than words, there's a few pictures of Jeremy with the certificate and us getting ready to serve some omelets at finals breakfast. We continue to make contributions to the profession. We spoke in an accounting class on campus. I participated in an external review at the System of Georgia. Myself and 4 other colleagues did a review of their internal audit department. That continues to be a very valuable experience for us. I learned a lot from the folks from Georgia, and I learned a lot from the folks on our team. One other important thing about doing that, volunteering for work like that, is when we need to do our next external review, other folks will come and do that for us at no cost. Finally, earlier this week, we were at the Kentucky Auditors meeting. We got together with all the other internal audit shops around Kentucky, talked about top secret internal audit things, and shared concerns that we're seeing across the Commonwealth that are specific to us in higher ed in the Commonwealth. It was a good time, and we presented a session about good, great, and leadership. Finally, we continue to participate on committees around campus. And looking ahead, we're going to wrap up this year's audit plan. We're going to get started on next year's audit plan. We hope to see you all at the board retreat in August, where I think we'll be providing an update on our risk assessment that we did in the spring, share that with you all, and then we'll be attending a professional conference in the fall. With that said, I'll take any questions if there are.
Any questions? Bruce, I'm happy to see that you haven't had a high risk level. That's nice. But Dean Brown told us that he wakes up at 4 o'clock in the morning to stuff all the time. If you had anything waking you up at 4 in the morning?
Oh, no. Other than sometimes my daughter, she needs something, a snack or a.
With regard to Western Kentucky.
No, sir.
I break great teenage dog.
I got you. I will say, in my job in internal audit, there's always risk. And sometimes you get a little comfortable with that. With that said, you know when the risk gets to a level that's too high and you need to share that with others, discuss that with others. And I can tell you that there's nothing that's really eaten away. And I can tell you that management over here, they're doing a good job looking at risk, thinking about risk. And when they see something wrong, they're responding. So nothing that's keeping me up at night, Dr. Bailey.
Right. How long was your shift?
It was probably about an hour.
I'm just going to kind of keep an efficiency standard, 30 hours an hour. That's really like.
We'll shoot for more next year as well.
I generally thought that accountants are boring. Thank you for being an auditor with a sense of humor.
Yeah, you're awesome.
I'm going to be a recovering accountant and I moved on.
Thank you, Regent Brody, if I may, one of the things beyond his sense of humor that I'm thankful for is the way Bruce has integrated, and we all have worked to integrate risk management as a management technique, not just a box to check. And so you would be, and we'll talk about this in August, but you would be pleased to see on the risk assessment and the results of that, it parallels the conversations, the strategic conversations we have in here. So for example, around tuition, state appropriation, it's one of the highest risk things that we pay attention to. So I'm thankful for the way in which helping to support our strategy, and it's not just auditor stuff.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
Thank you. Everyone, that concludes the budget.
Thank you very much. We are moving to executive now, and the first action item is the approval of a philanthropic request. Amanda?
I presented all the details at the committee meeting. We're pleased to present to you all the opportunity to approve a philanthropic naming for Charles Forrester in honor of a gift from his family in the Kentucky Field.
Hey, does anybody have any questions for Amanda? Any further discussion? Not, I'll ask for a motion to approve the naming. Okay, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Thank you, motion passes. On action item 2, we are going to table that item. Move it to our next meeting. We next have action item 3, which is an approval of addendum to athletic employment contract.
Is Fleetwood first or Park Rare? There's two.
Let's see.
Parks first. So this is new contract, Mark Rare, there are no changes in the terms at all, other than his bonus goes now to 30, and his buyout goes from 200,000 down to 100,000. He's been here 4 years. We've won 30 or more games all 4 years, which ties the school record 4 years in a row with 30 or more wins. And the 145 wins that he has had as our head coach through 4 years is the second best over a 4-year period of any coach we've ever had. So very much like to keep him on board.
All right, being none, I will take a motion for approval of an addendum to the athletic contract. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Then we also have another addendum to the employment contract.
Yes, thank you on Mark Reardon and Lee Wood as our track coach. He was the assistant coach when Brent Chumley was here. Brent unfortunately passed away. Lee took over on an interim basis. He's done a terrific job. And back this year, our men's team finished with the highest conference finish since 2017. And we have 2 athletes going to the national championships in Eugene, Oregon next week. So he's done a terrific job too. This formalizes everything and just makes him our full-time head men and women's track and cross country head coach.
Hey, does anybody have any questions about this contract? Seem to have a motion to approve the contract. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed?
All right.
Okay.
Thank you all very much.
All right, thank you, Todd.
Chair West, I move with the board going to closed session as provided in KRS 61.810 for the following: discussion of proposed or pending litigation against or on behalf of the university.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.